Hi, I'm Martin McGrath from Financial Edge Group. Today I want to talk to you about a concept called the right asset in the right name. We help people get themselves set up for retirement. Myself, I'm a tax agent specialist and financial planning retirement specialist. What I often see when we're talking to clients, particularly when they first come to us, is that they might have some good assets. They might have bought an investment property. They might have acquired some shares or been gifted from shares from work or from a demutualization, so Medibank shares or NRMA shares or something like that. But they're just in the name that they thought was the right name, or they didn't even choose. That was just the name they came in. And all too often, we find that it's just not the right name. Whether that's property, shares, or even cash, or more commonly than not, it's just not in the right name. We recently came across a client, had some money in their savings. It was just in the husband's name for the sake of it, just because the bank account was in his name, and they were earning interest on that. And he was at a high tax rate. In fact, the highest tax rate at 47%. His spouse, not working at all. So they didn't earn much. They earned about $1,000 in interest for the year. But that meant that he paid $470 in tax on that interest, because you've got to pay tax on interest. If we set up the bank account in her name, the exact same money, the exact same bank, the same account, just in a different name, she paid no tax. So not even changing the investments or anything like that, just the right name in the right asset in the right name, saved them $470 without doing anything further. There's more we did. We did super and we did other things for them as well, but it's a big concept I see. Cash is a simple one. We can change that and shift that really at no cost. It's not a capital gain. You just set up a new account, you transfer money across. That's a no-brainer. That might be cash. It might be moving money into an offset account or a redraw rather than just a savings account. Something else we see often, and I'll explain that more if you want to catch up and have a chat. Also, the big thing we see is shares, and particularly property. I talk about property, particularly negative gearing, and the short-term nature or focus of that is that it might be that, again, in this case, the wife might be earning good income, $150,000 a year. So we want to go buy an investment property in her name and negatively gear that to save on some tax. And that might be fine. We might save a bit of tax in year 1 and year 2, and all of a sudden it starts making money. No longer is it negatively geared. Interest rates have come down, the loans come down, rent's gone up. So now it's making us $1,000 or $2,000 a year. She's having to pay tax on that at her marginal tax rate at 39%. Where say the husband perhaps was earning a lower income, his tax rate might be down at 21%. So for the next 10 years that they hold that property, they're going to pay a lot more tax in her name than they would have in his. Even in joint names would have been better. And the real kicker is, if they go and sell that property while she's still working, they're going to pay capital gains tax again in her name and potentially push themselves up to the highest tax rate at 47%. So what might have been, and this is what I see most common, is the short-term nature or the short-term focus. For the first year or two, it was best in her name because it saved them more tax at her tax rate. But not many people are going to investment and hold it just for 1 or 2 years. The plan was to hold it for 5 or 10. So look at the long-term implication of that, in that after 2 years, it's going to be positively geared rather than negative. And all of a sudden, for the rest of the 8 years, they're paying more tax than they should have. And then when they sell it, substantially more tax again than they could have otherwise. The problem with property, it's particularly hard to move once we've bought it. Cash, easy. Same day, you set up a bank account, you move it across, it's done. Shares, a little bit more involved, but can be moved. It does incur capital gains tax liability, but not much stamp duty. Property, you're often having to reset up loans, you're paying stamp duty again, which you don't want to do, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, and a capital gains event. So take the time before you buy the asset to think about the long-term nature and get advice. Speak to an accountant, speak to a financial advisor to give you this kind of advice, because yes, that advice might cost you money at the start, but buying it in the wrong name is going to cost you a hell of a lot more money in the long run. So hopefully that helps and makes sense. Right asset, right name, do it from the start and set yourselves up.